Council meeting for December 4th at 7 o'clock p.m. All council members are present with the exception of Council Member Wilkes. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on our agenda is public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for town residents and other interested individuals to speak about items not on tonight's agenda. This comment period is limited to the first 30 minutes of the meeting, and if we have any overflow, we will pick it up at the end of the meeting. I do not have anyone signed up for public comment, but is there anyone in the audience wishing to make public comment tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports, items, and comments from Mayor and Council. We'll start to my far left, Councilmember Hefta.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. So this past week was again another busy week. I'd like to say that the fall and the winter are always very busy times for us council members. We had the mayor's holiday lighting, which was delightful and freezing at the same time. And the mayor did a wonderful job on stage, and so did the Parker Chorale and the many folks from our local dance troops with the Nutcracker. It was beautiful. Thank you for everyone who participated in that. Also went to the legislative committee meeting with fellow council member John Dyack and the mayor and our staff. Then I had a meet and greet with the CEO of Parker Adventist Hospital. I also had a meet and greet and a briefing with a Comcast representative this past week. And I also went to the Harvey Open Space ribbon cutting as well.
Councilmember Dyack.
Thank you very much. On the 15th, I wasn't here last time. I apologize. We had a Dr. Cog meeting. We talked about 2023 active modes crash report and 2022 annual report on roadway traffic congestion. Those are more technical. I forwarded that information to Director of our Public Works, Tom Williams, to review on that. I went to a Denver South annual event here at, I think, the Marriott. That was a good time. Let's see here. The Cultural Commission interviews. I sat in on the Cultural Commission interviews, and a lot of fantastic candidates, and anxious to see who they finally selected. And I think most of us, except for Todd, was at the Harvey Open Space. Oh, that's right, Josh, too. The Harvey Open Space grand opening, a great piece of land, and just a fantastic individual to give us the ability to use his land in perpetuity to the benefit of our citizens. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Hendricks.
Nothing to report, apparently.
Councilmember Barrington.
Yep, so we were all at the tree lighting. It was great. It was freezing, but the turnout was amazing. Everybody was freezing, but everybody showed up. So I think it's just kind of the start of the holiday season and a great tradition. And so everybody braved the cold. On the 29th, I attended the police officer swearing in, and the very first swearing in for our official swearing in for our chief. In 42 years, this is the first time that our chief of police was able to swear in his own officer. So it was really fun. Great honor to see that. Great job, chief. And that same day, I also met with the Parker Adventist Hospital. And then I, too, had the honor of attending the very cold, again, Harvey Park ribbon cutting.
Councilmember Rivero.
Thank you. In all that's pretty much been stated yet, I won't repeat anything. But I think it's important to note that the reason the chief of police was able to swear his own officers in was because the citizens voted for that on November 7th and changed our charter, which is essentially the constitution of our town, that prior said our clerks would have to swear in all officers or us or whatever, but now the chief of police can swear in his officers, thanks to the citizens. So kudos to the process, and well done, citizens of Parker. I'm going to forego any updates and just do a reminder that on Wednesday, December 6th, from 5 to 9 p.m., the Parker Police are having their annual Tip a Cop event at Texas Roadhouse, benefiting the Special Olympics. So December 6th, 5 to 9 p.m. at Texas Roadhouse. It'll be a full house, so call ahead and get your name on the list, but it is a blast, and you get to give PD a hard time as they walk around with aprons, so it's outstanding. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, sir. And not to talk disparagingly about our council here, but two things that the council has mentioned: the tree lighting ceremony and then the Harvey open space. What they don't mention to you is I look for council members to award the TV at 7 o'clock at night. Not one of them were there. I think y'all were home with your feet by the fire. And then again, the Harvey open space. I look for any of you to be on the mile hike with me in the freezing cold weather, and y'all bailed on me too. So thanks for attending, though. I do appreciate that very much.
I was there at 7 a.m. doing the 1 mile hike, so I was probably an early guy. Maybe you guys missed me there.
If you were there at 7, definitely. I just want to note that in addition with Councilmember Barrington with our new police officers that we swore in on the 29th, that I also attended the academy where we swore in another 2 officers. So that's 4 new officers for the town of Parker in 2 days, which was pretty incredible. And just so you know, the chief got even better at swearing in on the second day. So then I think he's been swearing ever since. So it's a good thing, though. But we appreciate you, chief, and congratulations. Harvey Open Space was mentioned, but I just want to call all of your attention, and I think we've seen the emails going around for the Rowan Tree Foundation. On the eve of Thanksgiving and on Thanksgiving Day out at the right over McCabe Meadows, we have it's called the Angel Memorial, and there is plaques up there for children anywhere from newborn to 18 that are out there as a memorial. And somebody came and cut those trees down that they had planted over 15 years ago. So, Corinne O'Flynn, who's the executive director, had a saying at the end of this ordeal that I'm going to explain to you, but had a saying: "I'm not happy with what happened, but I'm happy with what happened since." So we found out about that. We met with her, Mary Colton and her team. Jared, Eric, and Jeff. How can I forget that one? Went out. We met with her. Long short of it is that over the course of the next 7 days, our Parks and Recreation team, Arbor Valley Nursery, Pine Nursery here in Parker, and Brightview reconstructed the entire park for them with trees that where they had replaced like maybe 10-foot trees on those oaks. Now are these soaring 20-foot, 22-foot pine trees. Where they had little 5-foot maples out there are now probably 10-foot maples, and they came in with all they call it gorilla mulch. I'm looking at all the Parks and Recreation people, so y'all should know what I'm talking about. But all the gorilla mulch, this place was amazing. So just in time for Saturday, December 2nd, where they had their their annual candlelight memorial, where they not only have the families out, but they read each and every name of a child that's out there on that plaque. So if you are interested, RowandTreeFoundation.org is more information about that. They are an amazing group. I knew nothing about them until this, which really goes back to Corinne O'Flynn's statement that, I'm not happy with what happened, but I'm happy with what happened since. So with that, we will move on our agenda to the consent agenda. But before I leave, Mary Colton, our Parks and Recreation Director, to you, to your whole team, to the Chief of Police and everybody that was out there securing the site, thank you both from the bottom of my heart. And thank you on behalf of those parents that have children out there. It means a lot to them. So thank you both. All right, consent agenda are considered to be routine and enacted with one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of the consent agenda items unless council votes to remove an item for individual discussion. Ordinances on the consent agenda are for introduction only and will not be removed for discussion. So council, you have consent agenda item 4A through 4G for your consideration.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda items 4A through G, please.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Rivero, second by Hendricks. Rivero?
Aye.
Barrington? Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Next up is our first resolution of the evening, resolution number 23-091, a resolution to appoint members to the Parker Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Advisory Commission and to appoint a chair. Madam Director, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Mary Colton, Parks and Recreation Director. And about this time last year, Council approved the implementation of the new Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Commission, 7-member commission. 2 of those 7 members had 1-year terms that are expiring this month, and subsequently, those terms will be for 3 years. So that was an initial term to stagger those terms initially, so we would have some continuity there. Those positions were posted. We received 4 applications, 1 from the incumbent, Andre Tudine. The other incumbent chose not to reapply. Councilmember Hendricks and I conducted interviews from the 4 applicants that we received, and it was determined that Andre Tudine, who was the incumbent, and also Michael Doyle are being recommended for these positions. Michael Doyle is not here tonight. He was flying in and was supposed to be in around 6, but I guess was delayed at DIA, so will not be joining us tonight, but members of the commission are here with us tonight to support Andre's and his reappointment, should that be happening tonight. We had some good applicants, and, as Councilmember Hendricks can attest, that the applicants were all very strong, but, these 2 seem to be the best fit for this commission. Andre, the incumbent, we're fortunate to have him back, and I'm so happy he's willing to do so, to come back and help us out. He really had some valuable insight and productivity on the commission this year, volunteered in several events, was also out there at the Harvey Open Space ribbon cutting, so has been very involved, and we appreciate him very much, and I'm really glad that he's going to return. Heather Doyle served as our chair this past year, and with her excellent leadership, we're recommending that she continues in that role for 2024. She has also done an amazing job, along with all of the other members of the commission. We really nailed it with these appointments. They're wonderful people, very invested in our community, and are super eager to continue their work with us in Parks and Recreation. So at this time, staff is recommending approval of resolution number 23-091 to appoint members to the Parks and Open Space Advisory Commission and to appoint a chair. At this time, I will take any questions that you may have.
Great. Well, we want to ask questions of the appointees too.
Sure.
So,
Hi.
but any questions for Mary Colton? I'm cueing Laura to leave you alone and to go after the appointees. But Councilmember Hefta, Councilmember Dyack, Councilmember Ann, Councilmember Rivero, anything? All right. If we can meet your applicants, your appointees,
Yes, Andre?
come on down, Andres. And Heather, you want to come down too? Come on down.
Would you like to ask them some questions?
So you can come to the big, front and center there. And Andres, we saw you at the Harvey Open Space, but did you take the hike afterwards too in the cold? No.
My dog wanted to go home, so.
Okay. Your dog's adorable, by the way. All right. We will go for, let's go for questions of Heather, questions or comments for Heather first. Councilmember Hefta.
Thank you. I've become the inquisitioner, haven't I? Sorry. But it's Heather, right?
Yes.
What are you hoping to learn by serving on this commission?
So I have a long history in Parks and Rec and open space planning and land conservation in my background, and I've traveled around a bunch. And so I've been living in Parker now for 7 years and really wanted to be part of my community and bring that expertise here. So we had a learning year, which was really exciting for all of us. I think we all thought we knew Parker. We walk the trails, we take our dogs places, so we thought we knew it inside and out. We had no clue. We've learned so much about what goes into the work. The staff, we got to spend so much time with the staff and just give us a new appreciation for why you live here and why you enjoy the outdoor amenities. I live at the Parker Rec Center with the swim team, so I surely know that place really well. And so we just wanted to give back. And so I hope to just continue to do that and start to now transition to being a citizen that can help.
Excellent. Councilmember Diak, any questions of the chair?
Everybody?
Is that it, Laura?
That's it.
Really? Wow. No, I just appreciate people like yourself who give their time. To me, I always tell people if you just give a little bit, if everybody gave a little bit, this community would be so amazing. It already is amazing, but thank you so much for what you're about to do.
Thanks for having us. It's fun to be able to learn more and share it.
Councilmember Hendricks?
No questions. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to everyone for stepping up. I know it's a lot of time and effort, but it's rewarding to see fellow citizens learn more about their community.
Thank you.
Councilmember Barrington?
Yeah, thank you for stepping up. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
And Councilman Rivero?
No, I got to interview all of you. The only one I didn't get to interview was Michael, I think, and I was obviously taken aback by the experience that we have, willing to volunteer to benefit our community. It's just fabulous, and you guys have already done some amazing work already. I look forward to seeing where next year takes us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And Andres, I know you think you're going to swipe out, but we're going to give you over to Councilmember Hefta here.
So, I'm sorry, your name again, sir?
Andre Tudine.
Andre.
Yeah.
What expertise do you bring to Parks and Rec Commission?
My expertise relies mainly as being a user of the parks and open space around the area. I was fortunate enough to also live in other places of the country and other countries as well, and I always find myself being in touch with and interacting with the facilities and open spaces. I spent also my time in a pool for a long time. I was a college swimmer and always into healthy lifestyles and fitness, and I feel like this is my chance to give back and not switch from being a user to helping out in the community. And I'm just going to echo what Heather has brought up. It's kind of in the same manner.
Thank you both.
Council, any other additions? Anyone? Okay. Great. With that, hold tight just for a second. We have to let the public comment on your appointments here. So I'll open up the public comment on this at 7:16. Anyone from the public wishing to make a comment on the appointments of members or the chair to the Rec Commission? Seeing none, we'll close it at 7:16. Council, I'll entertain any closing comments or a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 23-091 as part of the regular agenda.
Second?
Motion is made by Hendricks, seconded by Hefta. Rivero?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Congratulations on your reappointment. Now, if you'll all in the Parks Commission, if you'll join me down for a picture. Where's Mary Cole?
I could shrink if you want. Good. You want to get in here?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Andrew, we focus or we need to go that
Have
way?
you take one step that way, in front. Mary? Mary, that way.
There you go.
There you go, perfect.
Come on, this is the engineering team here.
Right.
For this.
All right. It looks good. Here we go. On three. 1, 2, 3. Take one more. 1, 2, whoops.
There we go.
1, 2, 3. We'll do one more. One more, yeah. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you very much. First and last.
Motivation's moving over there.
Right by the wall. I know, can't get out. All right, we have the first of our public hearings tonight, so I'm going to open up this public hearing at 7:19 p.m. This public hearing's on ordinance number 3.74.4 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance to amend Section 13 of the Crown Point Center Development Guide, Third Amendment, titled Crown Point Center Development Plan pursuant to the Park Land Development Ordinance. And we have Ashley with us tonight. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Is this thing on? Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Yes, good evening, Town Council and Mayor. Thank you for having me. Tonight, I am presenting the Crown Point Center PD Fourth Amendment. Okay, so this 5.5 acre property is located to the north of Crown Crest Boulevard, east of Cottonwood Drive, and is bound to the north and the east by private drives. The Crown Point Plain Development was adopted by the town in 1989 and was first platted in 2000. The PD was amended twice, once in 2001 and later in 2014, as well as replatted in 2006. The applicant is proposing to amend the Crown Point Center PD map by expanding the planning area 6B onto the subject property to allow for assisted living and memory care facilities. Okay, shown on the screen is the current Crown Point PD plan, and the property in question is highlighted in yellow. Please note that the north arrow is facing to the right on this slide. Currently, the property in question is located within the planning area 2B, which is the commercial office and hotel district of the Crown Point PD. The Crown Point PD limits permitted uses in the commercial office and hotel district to shopping centers, hotels, motels, public facilities, and other uses that support the medical district designated in the town's master plan. Residential uses in nature, including assisted living and memory care facilities, are not permitted uses in the district. Okay, the current property is bounded by vacant lots to the east and west, and by commercial uses to the north and south. Note that the south user is the Advent Health Hospital, which is the anchor to our medical district. Okay, the request for the plan development Fourth Amendment is seeking to modify the boundary between planning areas 2B and 6B. The proposed change would expand the planning area 6B and reduce planning area 2B by approximately 5 acres. Planning area 6B is located within the commercial office and research and development district within the Crown Point PD. Planning area 6B does allow for institutional uses that are residential in nature, such as assisted living and memory care facilities, and is intentionally located to the edges of the PD to allow for more intense commercial uses near the front of the PD and near Parker Road. Expanding the 6B planning area to incorporate the subject property will reduce the inventory of lucrative properties within the commercial office and hotel district needed for commercial development as part of the Crown Point planned development and the town master plan. So I'm going to describe a little bit more about what is actually in the master plan. The subject property is located within the medical and the E470 corridor character areas as noted in the master plan. The medical district focuses on state-of-the-art medical care, preventative health care, and wellness. Appropriate land uses include hospital, medical offices, healthcare clinics, and rehabilitation centers and hotels. The E470 corridor district character area allows for higher intensity land uses without significant impact to the town. The proposed use for the property in question is an institutional use that is residential in nature. Residential uses are not consistent with the intent of the medical district and the E470 district character areas, especially when the subject property is at the center of a commercial development and located at the corner of two major roadways. However, through a use not itemized application in 2013, a previous town council approved an assisted living and memory care uses to certain areas of the Crown Point PD, creating other zone properties within the Crown Point PD that allow for that use. Therefore, the proposed amendment to the PPD is not consistent with the master plan. Okay, another planning document that this property is obligated to. The property in the subject property is located within the Parker Road Corridor Master Corridor Plan. The Parker Road Corridor Plan aligns itself with the 2035 Master Plan zoning and recommends commercial uses within the Parker Road Corridor planning area. There are 9 criteria used to evaluate a rezone application. These criteria ensure that a need exists. The proposal is consistent with the master plan in that there are adequate services to serve the proposed site. All 9 criteria must be satisfied for staff to support a rezoning application. The review criteria are listed on the screen above, and these are the only criteria through which the request may be reviewed. So after a full analysis, staff has concluded that not all 9 criteria can be met by the proposed PD amendment. The first criteria, the need for the proposed PD amendment is not needed due to the fact that there are other properties within the Crown Point PD and the town that allows for assisted living and memory care as a permitted use. The second criteria, the subject property is not the correct site for the proposed development due to the key location of the property in question at the center of a major commercial development. There are other properties within the Crown Point PD and town that allow for assisted living and memory care that are not at the center of a major commercial development. The fourth criteria, there have not been significant changes to the area that warrant a zone change. The Crown Point PD was intended to allow for supporting medical and commercial uses and is still intended to develop in that direction. The eighth criteria. The proposal is not consistent with the town's master plan policies and goals because the proposal allows for a residential use within a major commercial and medical district. After evaluating the zoning information, staff has determined that the proposal does not meet all 9 of the approval criteria set forth in the land development ordinance. The full analysis can be found in the attached staff report. So staff has reviewed the proposal and has determined that all notice requirements have been satisfied. However, all 9 criteria have not, and the project is not consistent with the master plan. Staff has received 2 letters in support of the application, and the letters have been uploaded to the case file in Trackit and and provided to the council. Therefore, staff recommends town council deny the Crown Point Plan Development 4th Amendment. This concludes staff's presentation. I am available to answer any questions, and the applicant is also here to answer questions.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley, for that presentation. Appreciate it. And I know you have your wingman, Bryce Matthews, with you too. So
Always.
We'll let you phone a friend or, 50-50, whatever you need to do as they go. But I'm going to start to my far right. Councilmember Rivera, questions for staff?
First question, is there a presentation from the applicant or no?
Yes.
There is a presentation from the applicant, okay. My first question for staff, if you could you go back to, there is a picture you have of the corridor master plan, or it was the Parker Corridor Master Plan showing the uses. Could you go back to that picture, please? Is that our picture in our master plan?
That is in the Parker Road Corridor Plan document.
Town of Parker?
Yes.
Property, thank you.
Yes.
And then if you could, go back to one of your earlier slides, I believe it was slide 2 or 4, it shows the parcel
Oh, the aerial?
right there is fine.
Okay.
Thank you. So if this use is not approved on this parcel, can you show me on this map what other parcels this use would be approved on?
Yes, so on this map, to the right-hand side of the property in question, those two vacant lots, that use is a permitted use.
Thank you. And you said this PD was originally entered into in 1989?
Yes.
And then platted in 2000?
I do believe that was correct.
And then can you tell me offhand, Bryce, maybe when the hospital came?
I believe it was around 2004, 2005.
So was the hospital a goal of this PD? Was this always a medical PD, or was the hospital an afterthought and this was the perfect location to put it?
I can't speak to 1989. I do know in 2004, 2005, it was a win. It was a goal of the community to get a facility such as that, and it was a win to get it at that time.
Absolutely. And then, so real quick, you have recommended in the criterion that this use is residential in nature, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What makes this use residential versus medical or versus commercial?
Yes, thank you. So the real defining factor here is the length of a stay. As far as assisted living and memory care, they're more of a long-term residential use rather than a hotel that has a quicker turnover rate.
Okay. And then on this map, the zoning, do you know what planning area the hospital is residing on? And what the uses would be for that one? Is that medical or is that?
Yes, that is also a part of the medical district, but as far as the planning district within the PD,
So the hospital's land is similar to 6B versus 2B?
it would be similar to both, right?
So yeah, it is similar to, actually, before I answer this, can you pull up the graphic? I want to make sure I'm not reversing these. So it is similar to 2B. It is the same.
The hospitals is similar to 2B?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Barrington.
So how many communities do we have in the town? And do you know what their vacancy rate is?
Within the town, we have about 6 assisted living and memory care facilities, and there's around 10 in the greater Parker area, so that aren't technically in town boundaries but are nearby.
Of those 6, how many have memory care?
I am not sure on that.
Okay. And then do we know what the medical office vacancy is around?
I cannot speak to the vacancy rates of those places.
Okay. Is memory care considered medical?
In the way that we're viewing it tonight is that it is, since it is a long-term stay, that it would be residential in nature, and the medical would be an ancillary supporting use.
Okay. And I guess just one other question. So can you go back to the slide that you were showing right before this, that had the pink and the green? So I'm just wondering, why is it that to the south and to the north of that parcel, those are all approved for this use, but that particular one is not?
It's not the south and the north. It is the 2 properties to the east of those 2 green parcels to the right. Those are in a different planning area within that PD, so that is why there is different uses that are permitted, which is that 6B versus 2B.
It's not south? Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Just to clarify, I think you mentioned this parcel is within the medical district?
Yes.
And you had mentioned a prior council had agreed to a facility similar in the past. Is there any history, or can you elaborate on that?
Yes, there was a use not itemized application, and actually you can see the facility on this map to the right of those two green parcels. That is an assisted living facility.
Sorry, it's up to the north.
Oh, it is? Okay, okay, it is off, I'm turned around, sorry. It is up to the north, that is kind of off map. But,
So in, I believe it was 2014, there was a use as not itemized. At the time, staff had recommended denial of that. At the time, that previous council did approve that. The zoning was amended to reflect that. And that's how the two properties to the east of this and the property to the north where it's permitted now have as a listed use by right assisted living. Those locations are away from the center of the development, away from kind of that gateway and the prime commercial locations.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Dyak?
Thank you very much. Bryce, I'm probably going to bend your ear here. I'm taking probably 3 or 4 steps back and looking not only at this, what we see here, but just things happening to the north in the Costco area and things happening to the south, which is an undeveloped piece on the northeast corner of Pine and Parker. The northeast corner of Pine and Parker, I'm throwing just trivia questions at you now. How many acres is that? Do you ballpark? Is that? I'm testing your knowledge here.
I'm going to say approximately 49 acres.
So, I mean, in a development with 49 acres, based on your knowledge throughout the years, in something like this, in a heavily trafficked corridor, what types of uses or zonings would we typically look for when we get to that? And I know we're incredibly premature, but I'm just trying to understand or put that piece into play to kind of fill out my thought process of this general area.
So that property is generally referred to by us as the Bowie property. It is within the medical district of the master plan. So think similar recommendations to the property to the north. Right now, we're actually beginning a sub-area plan of all 4 corners, but in particular that one as well, because it is a large future site for development in an important corner, an important area of town.
And a sub-area plan is just sort of to give an idea, if you will, as to what we could potentially have?
Yeah, so it's kind of taking the master plan, which is broad in general,
Yeah.
and taking it one step a little closer, thinking about, kind of land uses in a little more detail, access,
Yeah.
Circulation, those types of things.
Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like we've, with the medical anchor, if you will, I'm just talking, with the medical anchor, it has sort of attracted additional medical uses, which may or may not be defined as medical based on our definition. I heard we had an assisted living area or assisted living project that was rezoned just outside, I think, to the north of this picture. And then I don't know if that's an acute rehab place or not in that green. Are we? Do we know?
It's an acute rehab facility.
Okay. And I know an incredible amount now in a short period of time because people are getting older in my family. So it certainly feels that this is interesting to me. I'm just trying to process that piece, the Bowie property piece, and to the north we have a piece that has largely been developed from a commercial standpoint. Obviously, we have some high-density multifamily. We have some additional anchors coming in from a retail commercial aspect. And I'm just trying to understand if this is the criteria too, if this is the right place, or does this area warrant, has there been significant changes to this area to warrant a zone change? So I'm kind of focusing on those two pieces right now, just for the record. Thank you.
Councilmember Hepda.
No questions.
Sure, you want to go back? Yeah. Council.
Bryce, can you maybe share if you know the amount of assisted living memory care facilities within Parker today in our boundary?
6.
Yes, there is approximately 6, around 6, yeah.
And
10 in the greater.
yeah, okay. And I don't know if this is more of an opinion for you, but do you feel we're at capacity for those facilities, or do you think there's a future need for more, given our population?
So I think that would be an answer for the applicant in terms of demand
Okay.
for it.
Sure, okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rivera, question?
Thank you. I'd like to ask questions about the previous approval, if that's, I believe it's pertinent and similar in nature.
Yep.
So previously, the council in 2014, which I happen to be part of, so did Dyak.
I don't remember that.
I do, because I think, if I remember it correctly, the original ask that came to town was to change the approved uses within the planning area, and then that was a no-go, and then the compromise was to change the zoning area to make it match this. Is that correct?
So putting me in the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
My recollection was, so we have a process called uses not itemized, and then we have the rezoning process. My recollection is that the uses not itemized gave us the direction to amend the zoning and add this use to that particular planning area.
Okay. All right, so prior to 2014, that particular residential use was not part of planning area 6B.
That's correct. It was not allowed anywhere
Okay.
in Crown Point at the time.
Okay. And then I had one more follow-up question. Apologies. That's all right. I'll come back to it.
Anybody else? Councilmember Hepta?
Right. So that purple parcel that's the parcel we're talking about, right? Just to be clear.
You're talking about the one in the very center,
In the
yes.
middle, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me just try to envision this, because I love to drive around town and I'm just trying to envision this. So to the left of you, to the left of that parcel, it's zoned residential. Right there to this other green one right there.
No.
No, none of what is shown is zoned residential. And,
Okay, so.
sorry.
I'm sorry. This is zone commercial right now, the purple, right?
So right now, the area to the east, the green,
Yeah,
and I hope I'm right because I'm colorblind.
yeah.
So the area to the right is zoned a different planning area within Crown Point.
Okay.
That planning area is focused on supportive uses to the medical. And so added to that in 2014 was the assisted living as a use by right to that planning area, but not to the one to the west there.
Right, so so I'm trying to envision this here. Help me envision this. So in the middle, the purple, that's the area we're talking about.
Yes.
To the right is additional, what could we put to the right there? Additional medical uses, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
but that planning district also allows for that medical, that assisted living and memory care as well.
Okay. And then to the left of it, what does that allow for?
That is that is the same planning district that is currently zoned, that the parcel in question is currently zoned, and that is more, that is also medical supporting, but it's more of the office, medical office based and things, and those supporting uses.
So let's just project out 20 years. So we could have a medical office to the left. We could have a strip mall in the middle, and then we could have medical offices to the right. Is that right?
Possibly.
We could have a Burger King in the middle right there next to the medical offices, or a nail salon, or a gas station right in front of the hospital. And then we could have more medical offices in between, right?
Yes, the primary goal of that PD is for medical, like supporting medical uses, but it also does allow for a lot of commercial uses as far as like restaurants and different things, so to help support that staff and the people traveling through that area.
So, and then to right around the corner from the hospital in that same PD is where all the restaurants are, right?
Yes, so we're currently showing to the left side of that large pink area, that's a lot of restaurants. But yeah, so restaurants are allowed in all of the planning districts of this PD.
I spent some time at the hospital, so I'm just trying to figure out, after my 5-day stay at the hospital, would I want to come out and get some gas and get my nails done on the way home? You know, just trying to ponder that. That's all. Thank you.
Councilmember Dyak?
Yeah, no, there was a term, medical supported uses, I think, kind of put before us, and the only thing that sort of anchored with me was medical office building. Can you give me other examples of medical supported uses, just so I have a frame of reference, or is it just medical office building?
There's also like rehabilitation centers, mainly the shorter stay ones, but also other commercial uses are deemed as supporting of that medical district, as far as supporting that employment center, as far as like lunches and things of that nature.
All right, thank you.
Anybody? Okay. All right, I think that concludes questions for staff. Ashley, do you want to introduce your applicant?
Sure. Yes, so our applicant here, we have, which I'm not sure which one of you will be speaking, there's a whole team, but yes, this is with, they are with Ryan Companies, and they're the ones that are proposing this plan coming up.
Y'all want to come forward? And if you would, before you get started, state your name and address for the record, and then we'll give you all the time you want.
Great. Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Steve Strom. I'm Vice President of Development with Ryan Companies. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. Great to meet you, and thanks for your time. I'm excited and grateful for the opportunity to present our proposal. So I want to jump in just briefly and thank Ashley and Stacy and the rest of the staff. It was great to hear some of the announcements and talk about just the outpouring of support from the Parks Department. Our interactions with the various departments have been nothing but professional and extremely responsive, and so they've just been fantastic partners, so we're grateful for that. Do you have your clicker? So tonight I'm going to give a detailed presentation about our proposal. We're going to break it into 5 main parts. We're going to go through a brief project overview introducing our Grand Living project. We'll talk a little bit in our own words, give a summary of the proposed PD amendment, talk a little bit about what our Grand Living at Parker project brings. And also we've got some different design renderings and the like to give you a little glimpse inside some other communities, but also what we've uniquely created for Parker. We're also going to talk about some of the design considerations relative to the conversation we've been having already this evening around the use and how our building type is actually more consistent with healthcare, and the way that we operate is more consistent with a healthcare use than a residential use. And then finally, I'll wrap with talking through kind of the 4 main issues which Ashley highlighted, which we've been spending the most time with staff, just making sure we address those comments and talk about the merit of our PD amendment. So just over my left shoulder, I just want to do some brief introductions. So Chris Tejan is our project architect. He'll be coming up to share a little bit about our project and some of the design considerations. Chris has been really on the forefront of our Grand Living product, which started about 10 years ago and has been intimately involved with the vision and the design of our communities. Also, we have Mitch Trevey. Many of you know Mitch. He's a 30-year resident of Parker, very involved with the city economic development. He's been our partner for the better part of the last 2 years, helping us on the site selection, looking for various sites within the Denver MSA, and he'll come up and provide some local commentary and perspective as well. So before I jump into some of the details of the community, just want to give you a little background on who the sponsors are. I think that's really important. A little bit about Ryan Companies. We've been in business almost 80 years. We started in 1938 in a small northern Minnesota, Iron Range town, Hibbing, Minnesota, as a small lumber company. Since then, we've grown. We have 16 offices around the country, including here, one in our Great Rocky Mountain region. Ryan and Grand Living Management, who operates our communities, started partnering about 10 years ago. We've developed 13 projects, distinct projects around the country. We're in Iowa, South Dakota, Texas, and in Florida. One thing I want to just emphasize, again, we have been expanding into Colorado for the better part of 2 years, and I'm pleased to share that, Parker was our #1 choice. This market certainly has a dramatic need. I know we've already touched on the vacancy and the number of communities. I'll talk a little bit about that. But there were a number of appealing things that we'll talk about specific to this site that brought us to Parker. And I think it's only coincidental as well that Lifetime, which opened about 16 years ago, this was their first community in which they opened in Colorado. A little bit about Grand Living, who's our operating partner. I think, as you'll hear tonight, they truly are an innovative healthcare provider. This district talks about a state-of-art approach to healthcare. When the executives that started Grand Living, when they broke off from their former employer to start Grand Living about 10 years ago, they had already had 25 years in the business. They understood what they didn't want to do and wanted to create a company of their own that was focused on hospitality and providing personalized health care. In order to do that, as you'll hear tonight, we have a very innovative age-in-place program, which is really supported by the design and the construction of our buildings. It's unlike anything in the town of Parker, and for that matter, there's very few communities that offer that in Denver, in the surrounding Denver market. Not to mention the world-class amenities, some of the programming and things that we offer our residents is truly unique, and again, you will not find that in the town of Parker. From just a quick high-level key metrics, again, our community is a 100% licensed healthcare facility by the state of Colorado. So we are assisted living. We offer independent living, assisted living, and memory care. Again, that's a 100% license. We don't have a separate building for independent or a separate building for memory care. We are one building, 4 stories, approximately 200 units. Our use will bring over 150 primary jobs to the town of Parker. I'll talk a little bit about the types of jobs, backgrounds, et cetera. But that would make Grand Living a big healthcare employer in the town. And just to give you a little sense, the average age of our resident is in their early 80s. So there might be some misconceptions about, are we senior apartments? Are we 55 plus? No, in fact, most of our residents are in their 80s. Only, call it 40% of them actually still drive a car, things of that nature. So we'll talk a little bit more about our resident profile as well. So I think there was some great discussion already about the proposed amendment. I want to bring some clarity around what we've really proposed here. First, I want to say that and as we've done this work around the country, more often than not, we are supported and zoned under a healthcare use or commercial use for that matter. as you look at the master plan, and we talk about the master plan, those best planning documents really evolve and change with the times, which there's been a lot of dramatic change in the last few years, particularly around commercial uses, how people are shopping, buying habits, and the like. And we'll also touch on how the town has changed and different trends that have driven some of those uses, frankly, away from this parcel of property. But I want to just also point out, as you look into the Crown Point Development Plan, there is a section that talks about uses permitted by right. There's actually a sentence that allows our use. In fact, it says any other use compatible with uses set forth within. Our proposal is very compatible with the surrounding uses. It doesn't stray from the current intended use of the property when you think about the size and stature of our community compared to a hotel. It does not increase the density or traffic, noise. We're not asking for any variance as it relates to the code around the desired use, or excuse me, the desired zone to support our use. In our mind, this is a very minor adjustment to the current PD, and there's really no distinction, as we saw in the one graphic with the green to the east, between basically this 5-acre parcel of property and then the property to our east that is in that green color. Those properties effectively are the same, but the same service road. It's just we fall on the west side of that service road. So in talking with staff the better part of a year ago, they were really recommended that we propose just expanding that 6B planning area, which is that red dotted line. It's just moving that jog over, if you will, by a few hundred feet. The rest of the parcel, mind you, that's closer to the main Crown Point Center entrance will remain in its current zoning, which would support additional commercial development. Okay, so let's transition to talk a little bit about Grand Living and the uniqueness. In a moment, I'm going to call up Chris to share some great imagery and just a little background about Grand Living. But I want to just reinforce this point, which really differentiates Grand Living in the market. As I mentioned, no other communities in the market today offer this age-in community. And the best way I can describe it is, think about your aunt and uncle or your parents that you need to move into assisted living or independent living, excuse me. If they're in good health, they drive and the like, they don't need personal health care services, and they move into our independent living residence. In a lot of communities, when their spouse does need health care, that couple is often forced to move within the building to a separate wing of that building, maybe to a different building altogether to receive that care. And unfortunately, sometimes we often see if the care is so great or they simply don't have the units, think about moving into a 2-bedroom and all of a sudden you having to separate from your spouse and move into a studio apartment in a different part of the building or a different location within that campus. Not only is that a hard thing to transition someone into, it's also studies have shown that that's really disruptive to their overall health. Those changes really impact the health of our residents. So in our model, we can bring that health care to them. Again, we build to a higher substructure. We license the entire building. So when they move into our community, they can age in place, and our employees can bring the health care to them. So again, this is a very unique distinction about the Grand Living model. There's a lot of other communities, no question, in the surrounding area, but none of them offer that full continuum, independent living to memory care. And let me just clarify that piece. In the event that somebody needed dementia care, they would need to be moved into a secure wing. That is a secured wing of our building, and that's just how we serve our residents in our memory care program. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris, but before I do that, would you mind, I've got some just brochures, would you mind if I just hand those out? They're just some information we brought that I wanted to make sure they got a copy of. Is that fine? Okay. Okay, great. And then just one other note, we did receive one additional letter, so that's in this package, just for their reference.
We'll share.
If you'll just drop one more down.
Thank you.
Bring this down a little bit here. Good evening. My name is Chris Tejan. Address is 6316 West 35th Street in Minneapolis. I am the design leader for the project here. I've also had the good fortune to work on a number of other Grand Living communities, as Steve mentioned. Appreciate all your time tonight, and I would just echo Steve's comments. Staff has been very helpful working through the process here, so very appreciative of that. Do you all need a minute to look at the materials, or should I keep going?
Go on. Keep going.
All right. All right, here we go. So as Steve mentioned, current zoning for the site allows for hotels, it allows for healthcare facilities, and it allows for any other use that's compatible with the surrounding and allowable uses. So I want to share just a little bit more about Grand Living and the proposed project to just help illustrate the compatibility of the use and the similarity to healthcare and hospitality uses already allowed on the site. First, just a couple words about amenities. So Grand Living has an amenity-heavy model. About 35% on average of the building is amenities and non-residential space. That's significantly higher than what you would see in a typical hotel, for example. They also have a significant amount of outdoor space as well. And really, the amenities are focused around hospitality and healthcare. Those are kind of their two main focuses for the amenity space, and I'll touch on a couple here. So the first one is dining. Grand Living has multiple dining venues. They have a bistro, formal dining, casual dining, typically 2 commercial kitchens, so they have a pretty significant dining footprint, similar to what you would see in a large hotel, for example. This is just an image of another one of the restaurants that they have. This is their formal dining. For assisted living residents, they can get up to 3 meals a day in the restaurants. Another amenity just to highlight is kind of that hospitality and commercial focus. They have a full-service salon, commercial equipment, and any kind of menu of salon services that you could expect to see in a typical kind of standalone business. There's also a big focus on healthcare and wellness in their amenities. They have a whole program built around wellness, and within the building, they've got exercise equipment, they've got group fitness, physical therapy, a pool, so really focusing on the kind of the healthcare and wellness component. Staff mentioned kind of the state-of-the-art medical care, preventative health care, and wellness, and this kind of fits within that continuum pretty well. The other thing to mention with amenities, the town master plan talks a lot about community engagement. That is a big deal for Grand Living as well. They'll bring in outside performers, they'll bring in farmers markets, high school students for events and activities. They have a really nice program with veterans called Grand Patriot. So they do a lot of community engagement, so it's not just the residents using the amenities, it's the broader community as well. In terms of architecture and design, the town of Parker can expect a couple of things from Grand Living. One is a kind of quality and character of design that has a little bit of a resort hotel feel. That's intentional. It's different from a lot of other senior living currently on the market. Worth mentioning, again, hotel is currently an allowed use, and from a massing standpoint, kind of building shape and size, we would fit pretty consistently with that. The other thing that is important to Grand Living is fitting the local character. You'll notice that all the images on the screen are different. That's intentional. They're in different parts of the country. And really, in Parker, in the town master plan, they talk about town feel, hometown feel. That is something that really resonates with Grand Levy as well. They want to tailor the design to the place, and also have a certain presence that kind of fits within some of these higher visibility mixed-use sites like we have here in Parker. So this is a very preliminary exterior concept for what Grand Living could look like in Parker. This is what we have in mind. Architecture and design that's fitting to the environment, kind of that hometown feel that we're talking about. Grand Levy is not taking a community from another part of the country and putting it here. It's really about tailoring it and customizing it to the site. Worth mentioning, this is a challenging parcel to develop. There's about 30 feet of grade change from, kind of property line to property line. So it's not conducive to every type of development necessarily. We have been able to kind of fit within the topography, slip in some underground parking underneath, and really kind of help the building just kind of ground itself and fit in this particular site. This is a view of just some of the outdoor amenities I mentioned. Again, just sort of that resort hotel feel. I think Steve mentioned it. I'll mention it again. We wouldn't be planning to ask for any variances on the, kind of bulk massing the building itself when we get to that point. And again, staff has been helpful kind of guiding us in requirements in that regard, use of high quality materials, things like that. So a couple other design considerations here. So Crown Point Development Plan was last amended about 10 years ago. There's been a significant change in the senior living industry over those past 10 years. And really what that is that mixed use is what residents are looking for, and it's what their adult children are looking for. Don't necessarily want to be back in a residential neighborhood or out on a greenfield site. They really want to be where the action is, and their adult kids want mom and dad to be where the action is. So that's a new development in senior living and maybe something that wasn't contemplated in the original Crown Point Development Plan. One thing that is mentioned in the town master plan is this idea of a balance of land uses that supports a great quality of life. And we've really found that to be true as well. We've done a number of other Grand Living communities in mixed-use developments like this, where you have grocery, retail, medical office, and those have been some of the most successful. And obviously local businesses benefit from that as well. So here in Parker, we've kind of talked about the surrounding uses, but it's probably worth underscoring a little bit. We've got the opportunity for a holistic, full continuum health and wellness district. You've got Lifetime Fitness. You would have an age-in-place assisted living. You have the skilled nursing over there to the right. You have the hospital, and then the ancillary healthcare uses as well. So we feel that it's a very compatible use for this particular parcel. This is just an example of a Grand Living project that was part of a successful mixed-use development. This happens to be in Houston. You can see it's across the street from a Kroger, restaurant, Starbucks, and other mixed uses. And Steve mentioned it before, but because of the staffing levels that we have, the amenities, the fact that we have a commercial kitchen, the age-in-place model, we are frequently classified as a commercial or healthcare use from a zoning perspective in other jurisdictions. Steve talked about the aging community model that Grand Living has. It is unique. It's a change in how medical services are provided. What that means for design, the building is fully licensed for assisted living by the Colorado Department of Health. There's no separate independent living component. It's all licensed for assisted. Most senior living that you'll see in Parker, the independent living is separate and not subject to some of the licensure and the codes and things like that. It also means that assisted living can be delivered to the residents anywhere in the building, and it drives that higher staffing model that's a little bit more similar to healthcare. And again, this particular model of senior living didn't really exist when the Crown Point Development Plan was initially put in place. So it's just another change in the industry. And I promise I'm getting to the end of the design stuff here. So then just lastly, kind of on a technical standpoint, from a building code standpoint, there's a little bit of discrepancy between the zoning interpretation here and the way the town of Parker would treat us in terms of a building code. So because we are fully licensed assisted living, we are treated as an institutional or healthcare use from a building code standpoint. So we're in the same category as the hospital across the street. It's an institutional use. And then what that means from a construction type, it is a non-combustible building. So it's metal or concrete, similar construction type to what you'd see in the hospital, to the medical office, to some of the hotels around, all of which are obviously already permitted uses. So it's more that commercial construction type in line with a healthcare use. So those are some of the design considerations we feel support the application. I'll turn it back to Steve to talk about the approval criteria.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, well, we're going to turn our attention to the 9 criteria. Again, we spent probably the most time on the 4 that are emboldened here that Ashley already called out. And so, again, in our words, we're going to just share our perspective on those 4 particular ones and why we believe our proposal meets those 4 criteria. So first, and this came up earlier, I want to talk a little bit about the need. Parker is going to see the highest percentage growth in the 75 age group of any Denver suburb in the next 5 years. In fact, the graph that's shown in the upper right, the green bar is showing your growth. So I know it's hard to read, but we've got the 75, I think it's 75 to 80, 80 to 85, and maybe 85 to 90. But in any event, you can see the green bar is overshadowing the dark green bar, which is Colorado. Broadly Colorado. This would be commensurate with what Douglas County is projecting as well. You've got over 30% growth in all 3 of those age segments, but in fact you have 50% growth in that 80 to 85 year old age bracket, which happens to be, again, where we see the average age of our residents in our communities. In the bottom right is just a graph. This was prepared by a third-party market consultant. This is a group that we use across the country and is very formal in the industry in terms of their benchmarking. As you can see, the existing comps or properties in the market, you can see there's 3 memory care, there's 5 assisted living, and of those, 2 offer independent living. So what does that mean? There's really only 2 communities that offer that full continuum IL to memory care in the town of Parker. Why is that important? Well, you're also getting younger seniors that may not need the health care, but also don't want to maintain their home. They're looking to maybe have some help preparing meals, or they know that they are anticipating maybe their spouse needing some of those services. And so the burden of home ownership and maintenance and the like really makes the independent living an attractive place. Not to mention, we saw a tremendous amount of loneliness and isolation during COVID. So it just only overshadowed the need for that type of environment where you could benefit from being around your peers and the programming and some of the things that Grand Living's known for. So again, I want to just highlight there's only 2 other communities that offer that full continuum in Parker, and both of them are full. Right now, the demand for independent living units by 2027 in Parker will exceed 600 units. That would, again, be commensurate with some of those growth percentages that I outlined earlier. So unfortunately, the reality is a lot of the Parker residents that are trying to find a place for mom and dad or are looking to move into Parker, they can't find housing. They can't find senior housing and are left having to look to neighboring communities. That's just the fact. So again, our occupancies of those 3 segments, IL, AL, and memory care at the bottom, 98, 92, and 91%. Anything over 90% is effectively stabilized. You're really just picking and choosing units at that point. Okay. The second was, this parcel is the correct site. For some of the reason Chris mentioned, one of the things you'll see in the article that we reference here, this is from Senior Housing News, our projects are the most successful and the overall community is the most successful when our use is mixed in with other development. About 73% of the decisions that are made around where mom and dad move are driven by the adult children. Adult children are visiting the grocery store, the Lifetime Fitness, going to an appointment. They need to see our community. They need to be able to access our community. And at the end of the day, we want them stopping over as often as possible to visit mom and dad while they're running to that grocery store or running to that appointment. So it's really important that we have easy access, which again, building off the investments that you all have made in making this a very vibrant, accessible community, not only helps us, but it helps EMS services and all the things that visit our community. Employees, from an attraction standpoint, we want our employees to find us. We don't want our staff burden trying to give directions to a potential resident trying to find our community. I'll reinforce that, again, we're only talking about 50% of the parcel. Chris spoke to just some of the hardships we're trying to overcome with the grade. In fact, the other 50% is frankly a slightly smaller parcel from a buildable perspective and probably more attractive for retail. This also keeps our higher density uses away from lower density. So I'm going to touch just briefly on the next two slides because I think there's some perspective around economic development and trends that our local consultant, Mitch, I'll ask him to come up and share briefly about just what history has shown in the town. You know, despite the current zoning, this parcel has remained vacant for a very long time. Again, Lifetime's been there for about 16 years. A lot of the commercial and retail uses have gravitated towards the north side of E470 with the Costco, the Whole Foods, and the like. As part of this process, one of the things that's really important to us is the public outreach. I personally have called all the neighboring business owners and have had some great conversations with restaurant owners, with the CEO of the hospital as well. And there is just some consistent themes I want to talk about. First, they'd love to see this developed. They'd love to see this parcel be utilized. They'd love to see more traffic and more families, more residents of Parker coming to this part of town, visiting their restaurant and some of the ancillary uses around the neighborhood. And I think it's indicative of the letters, again, from the two anchors, both Advent Health and Lifetime, that we shared this evening. As I mentioned, the demographics are rapidly changing in Parker, and one of the questions that came up was about medical office and office space. Certainly, the office market's really disjointed right now with more people working from home, but demand for medical office has changed as well, virtual appointments and the like. But that district, if you will, has about 50,000 square feet of available space. So it's about 30% vacant, just for reference. And finally, just is the proposal consistent with the master plan? As we continue to go through the process and review the master plan, there's a number of key themes that came through. One, it is very consistent with the healthcare jobs and the like that are coming with our use to fall under that medical district plan. To talk a little bit about the specific healthcare jobs, so we have RNs, we have LPNs, we have care aides, we have life enrichment directors, we have wellness directors, we have PT folks, we have a variety of healthcare certified and background employees. These are good primary jobs, and again, those are potential opportunities for residents of Parker, and we'd love nothing more than to bring those residents in and hire them as employees. Supports the goal of providing a variety of senior housing options. We've talked about the uniqueness of what Grand Living offers, and also reinforced that the lack of independent living, along with some of the other categories. And certainly integrates well with the surrounding community and uses in that district. So with that, again, I'm going to invite Mitch Trevey, Trevey Commercial, just to share some local context and perspective.
Thanks, Steve.
Welcome, sir. If you haven't been to Town Hall lately, welcome. We appreciate you coming.
My pleasure.
If you will, though, state your name and address for the record.
Mitch Trevey, Trevey Commercial Real Estate at 10510 Dransfeld Road, Suite 100 in beautiful Parker, Colorado. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members for the opportunity to speak. When they were before Planning Commission, I just stepped in and made some comments in the public comment section. So I had a little bit more comment to add than 3 minutes. So thank you for allowing me to participate at this level. And I've got some notes and some comments, so I'll move as quickly as I can through those. But first things first, obviously you know who I am and how it is that I participate in this community. I've been a resident here for 32 years. I'm formerly your president of your chamber, as well as the director and chairman of your Economic Development Council. So my interests are always for the best part of this community, and I typically do not align myself with something that I don't believe in myself. So just that's some qualifications there. When Grand Living came to us about 2 years ago, I thought, great, more multifamily. I don't want to be a part of that, and I wasn't going to be. But the CEO for Grand Living flew to town and said, look, we are different. We are healthcare. We build the healthcare quality standards. We deliver healthcare. It's designed to bring a higher level, higher quality of healthcare to seniors. And Parker's been selected. They want to be in Douglas County. Parker came first. They would also go to Castle Rock. They would go to Lone Tree. But they said, let's see if we can find somewhere in Parker. So we worked hard and kind of scoured the market looking for the right locations. The criteria that they had, and I think Steve outlined some of these and Chris did too, is that they wanted to be close to other retail uses. They wanted to be close to other medical facilities. They wanted to be close to restaurants. They wanted to be in the mix where the action is, so to speak, because I think is what Steve said. So as we looked through the area, we determined that, Crown Point's a good location. There's already assisted living there. We're right across the street from the hospital. There's restaurants there. When we got to looking at the PD, it's allowed in one planning area, but it's not allowed immediately next door. It's like right across the line. It's like, wait a minute, it's allowed right here, but this line says you can't do it here. You can do it here, but you can't do it there. So when we met with the town, Bryce actually made the suggestion. He said there's a potential path, no guarantees, that if you just move this line from this planning area over to encompass this property a few hundred feet, that would achieve the goal. So that's the path that we pursued. Is it not introducing a new use into the PD as much as just allowing the use next door to be scooted over a little bit. So that was the path that we chose. The reason that I became associated with these guys is not just because they're bringing senior health care and bringing it next to the hospital, but because they would also be a major employer. And that really rung a bell. The thing is that there's only so many opportunities to bring that volume of jobs to town. So that got my attention. They're not multifamily, they're healthcare, and they're bringing a bunch of jobs. Let's see if we can get them in next to the hospital. So we determined that that would be the correct site. And so like I said, when we met with the town, there was a potential path forward, and that's the path that we pursued. So we think this is the correct site. It's close to the hospital, close to restaurants, close to transportation infrastructure. We believe it's the correct site. There have been significant changes. One of the criteria, nine criteria for approval, is that there haven't been significant changes. Well, I can speak to the fact that there have been. If you look at the way that Crown Point is developed on the north side, that's where all the retail and commercial wants to go. I happen to know that's the business that I'm in, so we know where the demands are for land use and particular types. Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and Costco and everybody wants to be to the north, and that's where they've all gone. To the south, in the south portion of Crown Point, if you've been a resident here in Parker for many years, you've seen virtually every restaurant has turned over 3 times. Virtually every one of them. Okay, so now we've got Chick-fil-A, they'll be just fine, they're Chick-fil-A. McDonald's is McDonald's. But if you look at every other restaurant, they've turned over 2 to 3 times, and they've all struggled. And there's a reason why there's vacant ground. If you look at the map, there's a reason why there's vacant ground on the south side of Crown Point. It's not that appealing for commercial and retail development, and it's probably not going to be. And as far as medical office goes, that's another case altogether. I think one of our council members asked what the vacancy rate was for medical office. We can speak firsthand to that because there's no other firm in town that does more leasing, medical, retail, office, light industrial, flex, you name it. We do the most leasing in this town. I can tell you right now, medical office is on its knees. It's a minimum 28% vacancy. We've seen it spike up to 45% vacancy in that building straight across the street from the hospital, and it still remains at 30. It's going to be a while before medical office is reabsorbed. And it's going to be a while before any medical office buildings are built on the south side of Crown Point. So it's semi-stagnant right now. There's no retail and commercial that wants to be there. There's no medical office that's being built. We've got restaurants that have struggled to turn over and find success. And nobody probably wants to admit it, but there's also a hotel that's been abandoned and is sitting behind chain link fence in Crown Point. It's owned by a bank. So we've had not a whole lot of success on the commercial real estate side, and we've got tremendous vacancy in medical office. Those two parcels, if you look at that earlier graphic that Ashley put up, those two parcels immediately to the east of this, they're actually owned by Porter Adventist. They planned on building medical office buildings there. There's no plans there now. So they understand that the medical office business is a little bit flat right now. So as far as, you know, the right location to bring this in, if we're going to bring in some activity and stimulate the south side of Crown Point, this is the place to do it. As far as leaving a portion of that available for future commercial development, if and when it should occur, it's going to be left there. So it makes perfect sense the way that they've approached it. One of the things that hasn't been spoken about is the economic development side. Understanding what's best for the community has always been driven by, is it going to be bringing any jobs in? Is it going to ring a cash register? Well, when I ran the Economic Development Council, it was all about jobs and all about retail sales tax. Well, retail sales tax, a lot of that's been displaced by the mouse. And if you look at a lot of retail, strip retail centers, like in inline strip retail buildings, I think Councilman Hefta brought that up. Strip retail buildings, how many of them actually have merchandise? There's not a lot of merchandise on the shelves and cash registers. You're going to see chiropractors and tax preparers and dentists and you know, all these other personal services, but is there really any retail sales going on in those strip retail centers? So when it comes to preserving commercial ground for retail sales, that's not happening. Preserving commercial ground for jobs is important. So when I looked at the economic development side, when these people said that they'd be bringing 100 to 150 jobs to town, it's like, okay, that's the real deal. I was a little surprised and a little bit disappointed that our own economic development department didn't even meet with these people, gave them zero consideration, and on the referral comments, it just said, no comment. And when we tried to arrange a meeting with economic development to help them understand the jobs they'd be bringing to town, they declined. I didn't understand that. I really didn't. Because when I was in economic development, if you could bring 100 to 150 medical grade jobs to town, you would meet with that employer. And you would check out other economic development agencies and other communities they've been in to see what kind of impact they've brought. So I was a little disappointed that there was no consideration given to economic development for this project. The other thing that concerns me is that if we're going to allow a use like this to go to another community because either our master plan or this PD doesn't support it, then when that use goes to another community, we've got seniors that live in Parker that would love to stay here. We've got them leaving our community. And then we've got families in Parker leaving our community to go visit them. And they're taking their money with them. That's economic bleeding. Not only have we lost residents, we've got families in Parker that are following those residents, and they're spending their money in somebody else's community. That's a concern. So in the kind of jobs, one of the Planning Commission members mentioned that, okay, well, everybody's having trouble finding employees anyway, and those employees are just going to come from Aurora and then leave here anyway. Wrong. If these jobs are going to be paying 6 figures a year, and the bulk of them do, those people are going to not only be able to work there, they're going to be able to afford to live in Parker, which has always been a big challenge. People come to Parker to work, but they can't afford to live here. So we've got an opportunity to really, you know, put a jewel in Parker's crown by not only having something that other communities would love to have, but we've got one that allows us to bring jobs, to keep families, and to keep the economy healthy. As it pertains to complying with the master plan, obviously that's an issue. I think if you look at the staff report, they kept their response really short. This is residential, so we don't support it. It's residential in nature, and I think that there was a comment made about the length of stay. the leases that that the residents have at this facility are on a month-to-month basis, no different than an extended stay hotel. So it's not like multifamily where they're signing a 2 or 3 year lease. It's month to month. And they get to stay in their own unit while health care is brought to them so that they can age in place, right up until the point they need to be in a bed and on an IV and push a button for a nurse down the hall. They don't go quite that far. So, you know, in general, I think as far as supporting the master plan goes, it is health care. It does provide jobs. It does support the rest of the medical district. So it's the right property, the right use. It brings jobs. And it is in compliance with the master plan because it is not residential. It's healthcare. I'm available for more comments.
Thank you, sir.
Was that 3 minutes, Jeff?
Pretty close.
Thanks, Mitch. I think we've hit on the 4 kind of main points we wanted to reinforce, both myself and Mitch, but again, significant need is there. This is the correct parcel for this development. Significant changes have occurred, and the proposal is consistent with the master plan. I just want to thank you for your time this evening. You've been really generous and engaged. Happy to answer any questions. I'd be delighted. And again, just on behalf of Ryan and Grand Living, thank you. We hope that you will approve our proposed amendment and help us unlock this great opportunity for the town of Parker.
Excellent. Thanks, sir. Questions for the applicant? We'll start to my immediate right, Councilmember Hendricks.
So I see you have letters from neighbors. Could you elaborate more on the support from the hospital and the CEO?
Yes. We had a call with the CEO of the hospital, and he sees it every day. Council member, the demographics are changing in Parker, and he was in full support and recognizes the need for additional seniors housing. You know, he thought that it would complement the surrounding uses. He didn't have any objections to it, and you know, recognizes he actually has some senior housing in his background and experience. And I think really our model resonated, and it was something that he would be proud of. So I think his letter goes, says so much to say that, yeah.
And again, your facility with memory care is very unique. Is that correct? And for the area?
We think all of our programs are unique. But, you know, I would say that, again, going back to the way that we license 100% of the building and we offer the independent living component, the community up the road, Pine Grove Crossing, beautiful community, assisted living, memory care, does not have an independent living component, okay? Skilled nursing is farther, you know, a higher acuity transitional care. So with Pine Grove Crossing being full and the skilled nursing, we feel like we're the missing link really in the district that does not exist today in offering that full complement.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Barrington, questions?
Well, I had a lot before your presentation, and you pretty much answered all of them, so I would like to thank you for a very thoughtful and a great presentation. One question that I did have, and I heard something about 2016, that might have been when Lifetime went in there. How long has that parcel been on the market?
Yeah, good question. And thanks for your comments. The Lifetime opened in 2007, so it's been available for 16 years.
Okay. Wow, thank you.
Councilmember Rivera?
Thank you, Mr. Strom. Appreciate you coming in front of us today. If you could, talk to me a little bit about Ryan. Is Ryan plan on owning this property in perpetuity?
Yeah.
And is the management company a subsidiary of Ryan?
Yeah. So yes and yes. Let me address those specifically. So a little bit about Ryan Companies. We are a national developer. We design, we build, we develop. We have an asset management group. We help raise the financing, and we own a piece of the community, okay? We typically partner with outside capital providers, whether that's debt or equity, to finance our projects. Given the Grand Living is such a unique model, as an operator, they are uniquely positioned to operate this building in perpetuity. Grand Living's objective is not to necessarily long-term hold the community, but I can assure you that every project that that Ryan has started, we have finished. And that is a commitment that we make to every community that we have the privilege of working in. So Ryan may not own the property someday, but it's our intention to keep it managed by Grand Living as long as we can. A little bit about Grand Living. When they started about 10 years ago, we helped start their company. So yes, we do own a portion, and we also ask our operator to own a portion of the building because we want them to have skin in the game.
So I think the next question is probably the biggest one in the room, and it might be for your site selector over there. But why not the 2 parcels to the east? If they're zoned for that and it's a big enough piece of parcel, why not?
Yeah. Well, in our business, you have to have a willing seller and a willing buyer.
Okay.
Those parcels are not available. I've not studied those parcels. I don't know the contours. I don't know some of the hardships that you'd have to overcome. The parcel that we've selected is intentional. It's uniquely positioned in our building, as Chris outlined, takes advantage of some of those grades. We do want to have some underground parking, so to a degree that grading does help us. We can take advantage of that. We also want to be as close as we can to some of those other mixed uses. The farther we push and break that discipline of that criteria we have, we've done 13 of these communities. I can tell you on our first community, we sacrificed too much. And our number one goal is to fill the building as quickly as possible and hire all 150 jobs. If our residents can't find us and our employees can't find us, that's not going to be a successful community. So again, we love the location from a visibility and accessibility standpoint, but you should too, because it's going to help it fill faster and help us hire all of those jobs.
Excellent. Appreciate that answer. I think, the question that I think came up during your presentation for me, this seems like quite a luxurious amenity. I mean, or the amenities, make it luxurious, however I want to word that. What are the wait lists like for your other 13 communities? And with that question, how many of your citizens of those communities are actual citizens of the zip codes within those communities reside in? I mean, if you've got wonderful things, we got people traveling, they might be moving here to stay in your community.
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple things. I would say the majority of our residents, somewhere around 65%, come from, call it a 15-minute drive time, okay? There is a tremendous amount of benefit in growing up in a place, raising your family, retiring in a place, and finding a great place like Grand Living down the street. That is where the majority of our residents do come from. Are we going to get some, what I'll call maybe more transplants? Yeah, we will, and we will be sought after, and I think that probably falls in that, call it 30 to 35%. Part of that is driven by Grand Living, but it's probably more often than not driven by the adult children. It's where are the families located, and that's going to bring parents, aunts, uncles, trying to get closer to those families in the town, be able to go down and walk across the street and watch their grandkids at a swim class at Lifetime, or be able to go down and watch a high school football game. I mean, those are the things that really you see older adults traveling and following adult children.
Excellent. Thank you. I have one question for Bryce. Do you know, where the bus goes in this proximity? Does it go into this area, or does it stay on Parker Road?
So yes, the 483 actually goes up and around the roundabout, and there's a stop somewhere up there, though I can't tell you exactly where.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dyak?
Thank you. So for me, I'm just trying to understand. I mean, I hear what you said, the different features of service. I guess my question is kind of maybe a little bit extended, but hopefully I can be articulate, or you can at least understand what I'm trying to answer and answer it. But if a senior goes through a process where they go to the hospital and they have challenges, they go to acute rehab. Acute rehab will potentially transition them into an assisted living facility to get stabilized, and then they could have the option of staying there, or they can find another place for a more long-term stay. Do you participate in that first part, or do you wait until they get stabilized and they come in and truly are month to month and go from there?
Yeah, Councilmember Dyak, we do have different programs to, whether it's, stay the weekend or winter with us, things like that to get, residents accustomed. As you know, parting with their home is a difficult change. And so the more that we can really overcome some of the barriers in our industry and say, the reality is you've got these amazing programs, and you're with your peers, and you've got especially the adult children love the fact that they've got multiple dining venues and they get the nutrition they need, the socialization, things like that, right? So we do have different programs, but more often than not, it is a month-to-month lease, like Mitch referenced, and so that's disruptive, right? A move is disruptive. So most of the residents that do move in, they have intentions of staying as long as they can, right? So I wouldn't describe us as like the skilled nursing, for example, maybe have like a transitional care wing where if they just had a hip replaced or something like that. But if they anticipate that, hey, it's probably time for mom and dad to move into a community like Grand Living, and they just had their hip, we'll admit them and we'll take care of them, take them through that rehab, and then they're on their way and staying in our community for a longer stay.
And your services like PT and general practice, those are practices that kind of come into the building?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we have like dedicated in our health and wellness area, spa and fitness, we'll have rooms where the PT practitioner can come in and do different exercises in the studio or things like that to try to advance that rehab.
Okay. That's all?
Councilmember Hefta?
If you can, I'd just like to walk through this scenario a little bit to make sure that I'm just going to give you a fact pattern, if that's okay. Mm-hmm. So you have an 87-year-old woman who breaks her femur in her house. She's got a beautiful house here in Parker. And she goes to the hospital. She's got to have the surgery. Mm-hmm. And of course, as you know, the hospital has a limited stay. Mm-hmm. She goes to rehab from the hospital. But again, as you are aware, Medicaid, Medicare only have a certain number of days which they will allow a patient to stay at that rehab facility. Mm-hmm. So now you have an elderly lady that doesn't have anybody in the community, but she can't eat, really. She can't take care of herself that well because she's still in pain. And where does she go? She can't go home because nobody's going to cook for her. She can't get around in her house because she's still in pain. So she comes to your center, right? She comes to there for a month, correct? And her family can sit down with her and negotiate a month or two stay at your facility. Is that right?
Correct.
And then can she then get the care she needs, such as somebody wheeling her down to the dining facility?
Yes.
Somebody getting blood pressure taking her blood pressure?
Yep.
Maybe somebody changing the sheets in her room? Can she then recover in the privacy of her own room have some social interaction. So I'm just so confused as how that could be deemed as residential. That's a medical use. The problem we have in this country is that Medicare only pays for a certain portion of rehabilitation. And then they tell you you have to go home and you have to do everything for yourself when you might be 87 to 95 years old. So does your facility really function in this manner in a medical use?
Councilmember Hefta, I'm very sensitive to the scenario you just outlined. That's the business we're in. We take that very seriously, and every employee, we believe we're, an employer of choice, and take that responsibility very seriously in terms of taking care of loved ones. And like you described, many of the services, daily services, daily needs, whether it's medication management, personal hygiene, therapy, bathing, toileting, all the things that our residents in assisted living require, that's what we do. And those, I can't agree with you more that is healthcare more than it is residential.
Correct. And then when that particular person recovers, they have the option to stay for a month or two, and then when they can go back home to their home if they want, they have just paid your facility a fee for what Medicare or Medicaid does not cover. They have paid for the care in your facility, which is the missing piece in the United States of America. Is that not correct?
Councilmember Hefta, I appreciate your comments, but yes, we are private pay, and we do accommodate short-term stays, and so I'm not going to opine necessarily on the gaps in the system, if that's okay.
No, I can appreciate that, and I just see that, this is a very real scenario for many seniors out there, and especially our aging population. And so it would appear to me that this would be indeed consistent with rehabilitation efforts.
Jeff.
Any other questions, Councilmember? No. Okay. Oh, Councilmember Barrington?
Just for clarification, you are not a Medicare or Medicaid facility, community, excuse me.
We are private pay.
That's, okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time and your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Tonight. And now at 8:46, we're going to open this up for public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to make a comment on ordinance number 3.74.4 on second reading? Seeing none, we'll close it at 8:46, and no response needed from the applicant for questions. So, Council, I'm going to bring it back to you for any final comments before we close the public hearing. Councilmember Rivera?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an interesting one, and maybe a little bit enlightening, as far as, in my opinion, our classifications go. The market does change, has been pointed out many times tonight. And, we might classify something a certain way in Parker, and it might be classified a different way in Lone Tree, it might be definitely classified a different way in Castle Rock. But it differs even greater, state to state and throughout the nation. And, we've got a very specific and some would say, dated group of plan developments, and as we stated, this was first drafted and platted. Drafted in 1989, which unfortunately is a long time ago, and the vision maybe wasn't there, and things have changed. To my points earlier, the hospital was added to this. after the fact. And as Mr. Trevy pointed out, the commercial growth excelled on the north and slightly struggled on the south. I was a member of Lifetime, and it was always a question. It's like, what's going to go in front? What's going to go in front? And the talk was, oh, grocery store, it'll be this, it'll be that. But it hasn't been that for 16 years. There are a few different statements we had from our testimony that we received in type. The master plan change requires modification based on what's transpiring in the market. I think that one's the biggest one and the most important one is the market is changing, as was pointed out in the presentation, but as we've pointed out in many different hearings and rulings, as this council sits, the market is incredibly dynamic, whether that's post-pandemic or whatever the case. And I think that Mr. Trevy touched on it, didn't quite make the point, but the economic development market is changing. It's no longer foot traffic to a retail application. It's clicks on a mouse. And the more and more people that submit those companies, the more and more Amazon companies that submit those retail sales taxes, the bigger our retail footprint gets in residential. We're getting there. They're not all there yet, as Mary Lou in the back can attest to, but more and more are submitting or are paying the proper taxes. From one of the neighbors, this project is designed to allow residents to stay active, social, and age in place. For me, I think that goes to our master plan, right out of our master plan. And then the other one, there's a growing need for this type of development as the project will broaden a variety of options for our seniors to live healthy and active lifestyle. Again, the same statement. When I go back and I read through the Planning Commission's report and I read the answers to the 9 criteria, very, very thorough answers. Again, I have to compliment you on that in both submissions, if you will, if that's not the right word, but incredibly thorough answers. I do read those. I know most of us do. But they are incredibly thorough and well-drafted answers, and I truly do appreciate those. I think what we have here ultimately is obviously the classification of this use. Is it residential or is it healthcare? Is it a place to live or is it a place to employ? For me, I see the latter. I see this as a major employer. 150 people, that's more than a hotel. I see this as an opportunity for retail. Folks, I will say it, affluent folks sitting at home in their community and shopping online for their grandkids. That's going to benefit us. So when I weigh the 4 criteria as pointed out by both our team and the presenting team, the applicant, I see them a little bit differently than I think our team did. But I have to state first and foremost, our team can't be subjective. They can only be objective as to what we set up as the guidelines, as the law, as the process. And I think that we have to be interpretive here and understand that this use is a little bit different than any classification our town staff is able to put it into. It's got its own separate silo. And so they don't have the ability to classify that. Thus, by law, they have recommended denial. I differ. When I take this classification and I put it as healthcare or as workforce, I do feel it meets all the criteria, and I will be voting in favor tonight.
Councilmember Barrington?
Thanks, Councilmember Rivera. I think that was very well put because I value our staff's opinion, and it's not very often that we have differing opinions, but I think there's a lot of gray area here, and I am a huge proponent for our aging population, and I know within the next 20 years we will have over 110% increase. I love the idea of the aging in place. There's so much about this. It's definitely, unfortunately, we need a lot of attainable senior housing. I don't know that this falls within that category, but I think that there definitely is a need that it exists for this proposal, and I do feel that it's the correct site. And I know that it is, with the grading and the fact that it's been vacant for 16 years, the market has spoken. And I also am in favor.
Councilmember Hendricks?
I also agree with my fellow council members. I feel there is a need for this proposal. It's a medical district based on testimony given by the applicant and the demographic data and whatnot. I feel this facility is a benefit to the town. So I will be in favor as well.
Councilmember Dyak?
Yeah, I mean, we've always sort of, I guess since we've been here, tried to preserve, protect retail, commercial zoning. That's the cash registers. That's what we need. We don't have a whole lot more land. We're 85, 90% built out. So when these rezoning items come up, they're usually in a very landlocked area or very captive area. I can remember a couple of them, and we've voted those two down. I'm remembering two. I think Mitch remembers one. So, yeah, I mean, I think with this, it's interesting. It's in an area which is medical, and I guess the question we're sort of grappling with, all of us, is what is medical? I think medical is changing. Through the discussions, the presentations, we have a hospital, we have an acute rehab place, we have another place, Pine Grove, I think was their name, that doesn't provide what our applicant is providing, but provides another type of health care options, which will be more typical, I think, of going through a transition or skilled nursing and another option on memory care. So with that, I see the synergies of a project such as this in this area. Taking that step back, I would concur with the presentation of our applicant that the development has sort of told us what's going on. We're going to have a Whole Foods, we're going to have a Costco, we have a Trader Joe's sort of to the north, north of E470, just in this Lifetime medical area. Maybe we didn't get it quite right with what is medical or what lots should be identified. I'm struggling looking at the picture. What type of commercial would work in front of Lifetime? And I think that's a struggle. I think with Douglas County having a significant emerging graying population, things like this are gonna be in need. So to me, I believe that this rezone would probably be appropriate, and I am looking forward to the sub-area plans so we can potentially see what we can do with the Bowie property to the south, because I think it all fits together. It's just the development's telling us where things need to go, and maybe we weren't quite exact back in 1989.
Councilmember Hefta?
Well, I just would like to state that from all the information here presented tonight, there's one thing we all talked about, and that's the human element. What has changed from decades in our society is the human element. The human element of living longer with illnesses, with falls, with fractures, with recoveries. Decades ago, people used to die in their 50s and 60s. Just drop dead in their house. They didn't used to recover. And so you presented some statistics here tonight about that human element. By 2030, as you had roughly calculated, 1 in 4 Douglas County residents will be over 60. Oh, I'm sorry, by 2030. By 2040, the population of age 70 and older will increase by 370%. So the human element is what has tied all of this together from my fellow town council members who were so eloquent in stating a piece of that. And so it does meet the criteria. And of course, number 3 is not applicable. And so I am in favor of this.
Thank you, council. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing at 8:58, and I will entertain a motion on ordinance number 3.74.4 on second reading.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 3.74.4 on second reading, please.
Second.
Motion is made by Rivero, seconded by Hefta. Rivero?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks? Dyak?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Thank you. Congratulations. And Todd and I went the Felix and Oscar suite, the odd couple suite, so when we're 80 bunk beds?
Sure.
All right. Let's move on to our ordinances for tonight. Was he the messy one, or?
I hope so.
Okay, all right. All right. Ordinance number 1.594 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance to levy general property taxes for the year 2023 to help defray the cost of government for the town of Parker, Colorado for the 2024 budget year. Madam Finance Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I have to thank my boss for making this, my last council meeting, quite so long and memorable. So thank you. Okay, with that, we're going to take care of a couple of remaining budget items that we have. And the first one tonight with this issue is property tax. So we need to approve the levy that gets administered so that we can actually collect our property taxes in 2024. Unfortunately, we don't have final numbers yet. So, as I've been telling you as we went through the budget conversation, the dollar amount that we have in the budget for revenue for property tax is at a fairly low level. It is reflective of the typical increase that we would see in our property tax revenues in a reassessment year, which is 10%. So, are we seeing a 30 or 40% increase in our assessed values? Yes. We're going to see that number come down as a result of some of the activity that has taken place in the last couple of weeks. The county will issue those final numbers. We'll do a double check, but I don't think that there'll be a need to come back and have any conversation with council on that. I do just want to reiterate, because I usually get the question, how big are our property taxes? And so we have over $50 million in sales tax revenue that comes into the town, and our property tax number is just a little over $2 million. It also, on a comparison to all of the other taxing districts that collect property tax revenue here in the town, we make up 3.3% of the total amount. So I don't want to characterize it as we don't care and it's insignificant. We take every dollar that comes in and make good use of it for all of the services that we provide to our citizens. But that amount just isn't as material to us as some of our other revenue sources. And with that, I'm just going to take questions if there are any.
Great. We'll get some for you. Councilmember Dyak, questions?
No questions.
Councilmember Hefta, questions?
Thank you, Mary Lou. No questions.
Councilmember Hendricks?
No questions.
Councilmember Barrington?
No questions.
Councilmember Rivero?
I think Ann just found out this was your last council meeting, so she's.
I'm waiting for the comment section.
Okay, so we're gonna take a pause after these two ordinances, and we'll have a moment to recognize Mary Lou now that this broke. So we'll.
No questions.
Okay, with that, we'll open it up for public comment at 9:02. Anyone wishing to make a comment on ordinance number 1.594 on second reading? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for final comments. Councilman Dyak.
No comments.
Okay, Councilmember Hefta.
As always, Mary Lou, you are brilliant.
Councilmember Hendricks.
I agree. You're brilliant. We'll miss you.
Councilmember Barrington.
So I'm just commenting on this particular.
Then we'll take a moment, yeah.
Okay.
All right, fine.
No comments. Thank you, Mary Lou.
And Councilmember Rivero.
No, thank you. I just think it's important to point out that those, important, not a significant amount of revenue comes from property taxes. And I just want everybody to recognize that as we watch the state do their dance. But, it's not a large amount for our coffers. So, thank you.
Excellent. With that, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 1.594.
I move to approve ordinance number 1.594 on second reading.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Hendricks, seconded by Barrington. Rivero?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Next up is ordinance number 1.595 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance to utilize available funds to redeem, pay, and discharge all of the outstanding certificates of participation, series number 2014.
All right, we've been talking about this item for the whole conversation about the 2024 budget. So what we have proposed is the defeasance of these certificates of participation that are outstanding. We would pay them off. We have a schedule built with our bond counsel and our financial advisor. We are looking at January 31st as the date to actually defease the debt. The town will save over $3 million in interest expense. We will pay out a little over $12 million to pay the principal and the small amount of interest that we owe for the month of January. And with that, again, I'll take questions.
Excellent. Councilmember Dyak?
No questions.
Councilmember Hefta?
No questions.
Councilmember Hendricks?
No questions.
Councilmember Barrington?
No question.
Councilman Rivera? Nothing. All right. With that, I'll open it up for public comment at 9:05. Anyone wishing to make comment on ordinance number 1.595 on second reading? Seeing none, we'll close it at 9:05 and come back to council for final comments. Councilmember Dyak?
I think as Parker begins to get to full build out, it becomes very important to rely on our plans and to do the fiscally prudent things such as pay down, pay off debt. You never want to go into retirement. In my career life, owing anybody anything, it makes things a whole lot easier from a cash flow standpoint. And I would probably translate that into Parker as well. As we go into full build out, you want to try to get close, if not achieve having no debt, if at all possible, unless there's something that needs to go out to the voters and they approve it. So with what we're doing here, I think it's tremendous. We got about 25 million left, I think, in terms of debt. In the out years, we don't know what can happen there, but for this, I think it's a great thing, and I'm happy to be a part of this in Parker. And if we continue to get through the 10-year plan and be mindful of our expenses and our revenues coming in, we can put a pretty big dent in what we owe, and hopefully we can get to zero before we get to that 100% figure. Thank you.
Councilmember Hefta?
Mary Lou, your vision and your wisdom has set up the town of Parker to thrive decades long into the future. Your hard work, your dedication is outstanding to this town. Thank you so much for coming tonight and saving the town money. Not many people have long-term vision and can keep a town in the green and can work with directors and town managers so that a town can thrive. But you have that special gift and that special skill, and we can't thank you enough.
Councilmember Hendricks?
Yeah, this is a great example of the town being fiscally conservative. And I know when I was just a resident during campaigning, and I would ask you questions about various things and sharing the truth, and so I can spread that truth to the citizens. It was something I always remember, and to all the crazy Facebookers out there, this is an example of us being fiscally conservative, and there's a lot of good being done here, and a lot of that good is coming from people like you and the staff that has helped right the ship, as it were, that is the town of Parker. Thank you.
Councilmember Barrington?
Are we making you cry?
Yes.
Okay, we still have one to go through. Let's just get through the ordinance, then we'll actually do the,
Sorry.
we'll
Okay.
get the tears going.
All right, then I'm just gonna, great job. I'll hold my comments.
Excellent. Councilmember Rivera?
Yeah, I think Councilman Dyak stated it very well. We need to get the debt paid off before we get to build out. Well done.
Excellent. With that, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 1.595.
I move to approve ordinance number 1.595 on second reading.
Second.
Motion is made by Dyak, seconded by Hefta. Rivera?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Yes.
Dyak? Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. So we're going to take a pause in the meeting, ma'am, if you'll come back up for a moment. And interestingly enough, right as you said it is when we all got the email that announced it. So I'm glad that we can finally talk about it, because I thought I would blow it. But Mary Lou, on behalf of the council, and we're going to go around and each give a moment.
Need to,
I
really.
know.
It's okay.
But they would feel cheated if they didn't. But there is no one that will ever be able to explain government accounting to me, ever. But gosh,
We
you gave it a
tried.
good shot. Over these years, you gave it a good shot. So we just absolutely appreciate you, Mary Lou, and what you've done. And your legacy here will be, I liked what Councilmember Hefta said, keeping us in the green. But we've been solid. We're on solid foundation. So we appreciate you so much. And all the best to you and your husband in Nebraska. And if it gets too cold over there, come back to Parker.
All right, we'll do that.
All right. Councilmember Dyak.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Mary Lou was the first finance director that probably didn't want to kill me. Don probably just gritted his teeth a little bit. Governmental accounting's a little different. He was the one that I think probably drove to the outer levels of sanity. But when Mary Lou came in, I feel like we worked well together. We were on the investment advisory committee. When I had questions, Mary Lou was incredibly gracious to answer them. One of the big things for me was planning, going through the, how do we extrapolate this? How do we do this? The 10-year plan. I think I wanted 15, but I was told that that's way too long. So 10 years is probably pretty good, but when you have a 10-year plan and when you can kind of see things, I guess making these moves such as paying off debt and seeing that we potentially will have a revenue challenge here in the out years is good. So we can try to take care of what we have to take care of and move forward. So I wouldn't know how to do a 10-year financial plan. Mary Lou was up to the challenge and staff. And it's just, it was incredibly great to work with you. Thank you so much, Mary Lou.
Excellent. Councilmember Rivera?
Yeah, thank you very much. Obviously, the 10-year plan has put us in a much stronger position. Being able to somewhat forecast the future, which obviously we know we can't because look what happened 2 years ago. But it has put us in a situation where we can pay off debt. We just did, to the tune of $14 million, I think. I know it's a trademarked word, but I'm going to say it, the priority-based budgeting or whatever we want to call it. Having the different, directors view and score themselves and do what they did with the budget. It may be more work for everybody, but I think it creates a better organization because they get to see, do I really need this? It would be better spent in this department. It also makes our job a little bit easier too, I think, but I'll just leave that one to it. But no, everything you've brought to this community has been only the improvement. And I think that's why it's been so good is because of what you are, that special mix between government coming from the private sector. So being able to take the private sector and attempt to apply it to the government accounting. Again, award-winning. I don't know. Until then, I'll just say that. Until I see you next time. Thank you for everything you've done for this our town.
Councilmember Hefta?
And Mary Lou, I know you have trained up the staff behind you, so you have left this town a legacy. You will be remembered for your dedication, your hard work, your brilliance, your effort, and your balance you brought to this town. And your staff is now well poised to step into your shoes, to try to attempt to fill your shoes. But I think about how much they have learned from you, and that is the sign of a true leader. A true leader trains their staff to be successful long after they leave, and you are a true leader.
Councilmember Hendricks?
Yeah, I feel you have a superpower. You actually get me excited about learning about the budget. And again, all the questions I've asked in the past is before being up here, and bugging you about open budget when you get that updated, and you finally have because you found staff, and the 10-year plan we talked about starting a couple years ago, and that's a great resource. So, just thank you and enjoy retirement.
Councilmember Barrington?
And I've only been able to work with you for 2.5 years, but I've said over and over again that you have job security. So I know we'll all hate to see you go, but thank you for everything you've done, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. I see my job as a conductor, and so I hope that that's what I've done.
Thanks for not getting us off the rails. All right. All right, we got to go back to work.
One more.
Mr. Grabcheck is like, speed it up. Let's go. Michael, I promise you when you retire in 30 years, we'll all come back and say nice things. We'll come back from our convalescent home that we just approved in a nursing home. Yeah.
Hey, I'll always stand and clap. He's just getting us free money. I'm not.
All right. Ordinance number 9.338.2 on second reading. A bill for an ordinance approving the Second Amendment to agreement regarding design and construction of drainage and flood control improvements for Upper Jordan Road tributary at Bradbury Ranch, agreement number 21-05.17B, project number 108522, by and between the Urban Drainage and Flood Control District, doing business as Mile High Flood District, and the Town of Parker. You never disappoint on your titles. Never, ever, ever.
Never make it easy. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'll try and keep this short for you. This ordinance is for the approval of an amendment to an IGA between the town and the Mile High Flood District to include additional construction funds from the district to the drainage improvements along Upper Jordan Road tributary. This project is located west and parallel to Jordan Road, extending from the regional detention pond just south of Main Street, highlighted in blue there, to the town boundary near Stonegate Parkway up north at the end of the orange boundary. The tributaries corridor is confined by single-family and multifamily residences within the Auburn Hills and Bradbury Ranch communities, as well as the crossings of Main Street and Bradbury Ranch Drive. This project has been broken into 2 phases. Phase 1 is currently under construction. They just kicked off here this week and consists of improvements to the upstream regional pond, which are anticipated to be completed by the 1st of March next year, 2024. Phase 2 improves the drainage way downstream of the pond to the town's boundary and is also planned to be completed in 2024. All proposed improvements are in drainage tracts owned by the Homeowners Association within drainage easements dedicated to the town, and no additional easements or right-of-way are required. This project seeks to achieve the following goals: to optimize the upstream regional pond to detain a wider range of flow events and to reduce peak flows downstream, to reanalyze the channel utilizing optimized regional pond and mitigate any identified areas prone to localized flooding, to improve the channel capacity where constricted and remove any remaining sediment deposits from the Bradbury Ranch culvert failure back in June, to install maintenance structures at pond outfalls to reduce sediment loading into the system and provide easier long-term removal of sediment, and to selectively remove cattails where necessary for floodplain conveyance while keeping an overall natural aesthetic of the drainage way. So as mentioned previously, this project has been broken into 2 phases. Design for the Phase 1 regional detention improvements has been completed and construction is underway. We're anticipating completion March 1st of '24. Final design and permitting of Phase 2 is nearing completion, and we're anticipating construction here in the spring and summer of '24 following the pond work. This IGA amendment proposes an additional contribution of $150,000 from the Mile High Flood District. We are not proposing any additional contributions from the town, and that brings the total budget to, I think there's a little typo there, but $1.526 million. This includes a special fund transfer held in escrow from 2006 project. In addition to this IGA, and not included within that $1.5 million, is an additional $800,000 from the flood district for the construction of the pond improvements that just recently started, Phase 1. As such, staff recommends approval of ordinance number 9.338.2.
That will turn to staff questions. Councilmember Rivera?
I have no questions.
Councilmember Barrington?
No questions.
Councilmember Hendricks?
No questions.
Councilmember Dyak?
No questions.
Councilmember Hefta? All right, with that, we will open this up for public comment at 9:19. Anyone from the public wishing to make comment on ordinance number 9.338.2 on second reading? Seeing none, we'll close it at 9:19. Bring back to council for final comments. Councilmember Rivera?
No, I'll just point out that I know the Cherry Creek at the reservoir, we're doing cattail removal as a form of nitrogen reduction, and we're documenting it, and it's turned out to be a very successful program. So
That's
I
good
wonder
to
if
know.
the town as an MS4 can get involved in that and see if there's any grant dollars for that. So
Yeah, absolutely. Any sort of credits we could get would be great. I'll have to look into that. Thank you.
You bet.
Councilmember Barrington?
Oh, thank you.
Councilmember Hendricks?
Thank you.
Councilmember Dyak?
No comment.
And Councilmember Hefta?
So thorough, we have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 9.338.2.
I move to approve ordinance number 9.338.2 on second reading, please.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Rivera, seconded by Barrington. Rivera?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. With no other business before the Parker Town Council, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll
Motion is made by Rivera, seconded by Hendricks. Rivera? Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks? Dyak? Hefta?
Absolutely,
That passes
yes.
5-0, and we're adjourned at 9:21.